Hoping you are having a great day and want to welcome you to another Enrichment with the Gifted Guy, where we have tutorials for students on things they can do to enrich themselves. What I'm going to be talking about today is what are known as Rebus puzzles. They also can be called word picture brain teasers. And basically, what they are is these are puzzles that combine illustrated pictures. It could be letters to depict words and or phrases, and then you have to determine what word or phrase this is trying to convey. So I'll show you what this looks like because it's a lot easier to show you than to explain what that looks like. So here's an example of a rebus puzzle. And so what you have to do, you have to take the word in the puzzle and any illustrations or visuals or symbols and try to put them together to make a common phrase. In other words, you would not, so if you looked at this and you see square think, and you say, oh, it's square think. That's not something that is a saying that people would say. So you have to think of something that people would say. So if you look at the think and you look at the positioning of it, it is clearly not in the box. So it's outside of it. So what this rebus puzzle is trying to convey is thinking outside of the box, or think outside of the box. And so literally that's what this is the think is outside of that box. And that is a saying. And that's what we're asking you to do with these rebus puzzles, to think outside the box, to cognitively challenge yourself and to think about things differently. So I'm going to give you examples of lots of rebus puzzles, and kind of with this will be hints on how to look for how to solve them. So here's an example of, we have two words and then we have the plus sign. And so you have to figure out how to combine these words and symbols into something that makes sense. And so you have insult and you have injury, and you have an addition symbol or the plus symbol. And so you are adding them. And so this turns into the phrase, adding insult to injury. And this is an example of a rebus that combines words and symbols. So we have these two words, we have the addition sign, and together they make adding insult to injury, which is a saying. Here's another one. You have these three secrets, and the top one is circled. And so you have to figure out what is it trying to tell you. And because the top one is circled, that really stands out. So this means top secret. That is the top secret. And that is, again, another common saying. And so it could be the position on the page that it is indicating something. So in this case, if it had the one on the bottom circled, that would be bottom secret, which isn't something people say. So it wouldn't make sense. But you have to pay attention to what is being highlighted or circled or whatever, and that gives you a clue on how to solve it. Here's yet another one where that uses color. So if you look at this, it has herring, and it is the color red. Well, a very popular or very common phrase is a red herring. A red herring is in a mystery novel, it's the person that you think it might be, or the author is trying to make you think it is, but it's actually not them. That's known as a red herring. And so this is red herring. So you can see it can be very literal, but at the same time, you have to kind of think outside the box to get a good sense. So this is using colors. Here's another one. So it could be the size of the font. So you notice that this print, which is inside this box, takes up very little space. So it's just that they could make this font much larger to fill the whole box, or, so basically it's trying to show you print in a small form. And so the phrase here that it's trying to have you solve is small print. Or you could say fine print, which is another example of that saying. So you have to look at the size or style of the font. So if it made the font look very pretty, it's doing that for a certain reason. But if it makes it large or makes it in a certain style, that it's trying to indicate something, and you have to try to figure out what that is. Here's another one. You have to look at, so you have breed on here twice. So you could say two breeds, but that's not really something people say. But if you look, they're interacting with one another. They're crossing one another. And to crossbreed something is something that is said. So you crossbreed dogs to create a new dog. So a Labradoodle is a crossbreed between a You're taking one breed of poodle and one of Labrador, and you're crossbreeding them, and then you get a Labradoodle. And so you have to look at how the words interact with one another as well. If it's just a word in the box, that's one thing. But if the words are interacting with one another, it's trying to indicate something that would be in the phrase that you're trying to solve. Here is one where you have this word that's cut in half, and you have to try to figure out what the word is. And this word is heated, or I'm sorry, hearted. It could have been mistaken as heated, but if you look closer, it's hearted. And so it is only half of the word. And so this is half-hearted is the phrase that it's trying to get you to solve here. So you have to look if it gives you a partial word. If by taking something away, it's actually trying to indicate something. It's trying to give you a clue as to what this word might be. Here's another one. So we have the word stance with the number 4 in between it. And so we have to try to figure out what this is trying to say. And so the 4 is inside the word stance. And so the word it's trying to say is for instance, because 4 is in the stance. For instance. See how that's kind of a play on words? That's what makes these challenging. And so you have to look at symbols, numbers, or letters inserted into a word, or it could be not there. So there could be missing something, a certain letter that's trying to show you something. Here's one that's a little tricky. So if you look here, you have B10. And then you have half of it is blue and half of it is black. And so if you just say B10 really fast, it's beaten. And so this is saying beaten, black, and blue, which is a saying if someone gets beat up really badly or gets in a tumble and they are, beaten, black, and blue. So you have to kind of look at the phonics of it as well. So is it just trying to tell you straight out what it is? Sometimes Rebus puzzles can be really challenging because they're really simple and people overthink them. But this is just beaten. Here is another one. You have to look at the way that the words are put inside the box. So this is not the typical way you would write a word, which is left to right. You have this hop that goes down and you have this hop that goes up. And so because one is going down and one is going up, this is hopping up and down because there's 2 of them. So they just put one, it would be hopping up. But this one's also going down. So this is hopping up and down. So you have to look at the direction of the words sometimes. And then you have to look at the clues it gives you. So we have give written 4 times, and we have get written 4 times. So you can kind of try to work that out. You have gives and gets, but it's not really a saying. And so, but when you look at this, you have to count the number. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 gives and 1, 2, 3, 4 gets. So this is forgive and forget. And so you have to kind of look at if the word is used more than once, why is it doing that? What clue is it trying to give you for how to solve that? So those are all examples of different Rebus puzzles that you might see. What you see down here at the bottom is a link to 17 or so Rebus puzzles that you can pull off of this website for free, and you can work through this. We're going to work through one of these in this packet together. So if you want to print that first one up, we're going to try to solve these Rebus puzzles together so you can get a feel for what this looks like. But you can print up any of them, and or you can just go online and Google Rebus puzzle or word picture logic or brain teaser, and it will most likely show up. It will give you examples. And there are sites that also have these Rebus puzzles on them. So here's an example of what a Rebus puzzle might look like. So you have several on a page. We have 12 here to be exact. And so what you have to do is look through these and try to figure out what these, the way that the words are in it or the way that they're displayed, what is it trying to tell you? And keep in mind, again, these are going to be common words or phrases. It's not going to be something that is not commonly heard. So you do need to be somewhat familiar with what common phrases and words would be and what they would not be. But I'm going to leave this up here for a minute or two and let you take a look at it and see how many you can solve, or you can pause the video and try and print this up and try to solve as many. Don't go to the second page, which has all the answers on it. But just look at this first page and try to see if you can solve these. So I'll leave this up here for a minute or so. All right. So if you're still working on it, you can pause the video as we go through this and then just pick it up from there. But I'm going to go through these and we're going to solve these together. So we'll start up here. So when you're looking here, you have an MD, PhD, and a BA. This does require some background knowledge. You may not be familiar with what those are, but those are all degrees. A MD is a medical degree, a BA is a Bachelor of Arts, and a PhD is someone who is a doctor in a particular subject area, not medical, but like maybe you could be a PhD in philosophy or something of that nature. So you have these 3 degrees, and there's firmly a line drawn here, and there's an O or a 0 or whatever above there. So you have to kind of figure what that is. So this is actually 3 degrees below 0. So that's how that one is. Which could be said. 3 degrees below 0 means it's very, very cold. Now we're going to move on to this one. So we have aid written 3 times, but you notice there's an arrow that's indicating this top one. And so we have to figure out what that means. So out of these 3, this one is being focused on, this one is being pointed out, and it's the first one. And so you have first aid, which is a saying, or a common term. So you have reading here, and you have these lines in between them that are separating the letters. And so the question is, why is it separating those? And so this would be reading between the lines. Because reading is indeed between these lines. So again, sometimes it can be very literal, but you have to figure out what it's trying to tell you. So this one right here is, it seems like gibberish, eek, knock, log, but it's actually, if you go this way, it's the word glance. But why is it written not in its typical form? What is it trying to tell us? And what it's trying to tell us is that glance here is written backwards. And so this is the term backwards glance, which is something that is a term. When backwards glance means that you look behind you to give someone a dirty look or something. This one right here, we have aged written 3 times. And just like this one up here, there is one that is standing out from the others. This one here between is underlined. So you have this first one, this last one, the second one, and the second one is underlined. So it's not second aged. That's not a term that people use. But it is between these 2. And so notice it didn't put it in this way, it put it this way. So it's between this age and this age. So this is in the middle of these. And so this is middle-aged. Here we have the word he's. Here we have the word himself. And we have a slash between them. And so this is the saying, he's, and this is very little, beside himself. And he's beside himself means that he is just so infuriated or angry or whatever that's a common saying that you say he's beside himself. He's not literally behind himself, but it is a saying. Um, so this one right here, we have a number 1, and then we have this little dot on here. And this could be, we could say dot 1 or first dot, but those again aren't common phrases. But this could also be a hole, indicating a hole. So this is hole in 1, which is a term in golf. When you put the ball in the hole the very first time, that's called a hole in 1. This one right here, again, seems like a nonsense word. Juan seal. I've never heard that word before. Don't worry, it's not a term that you just don't know. That's not a word in the English language. So you have to kind of look here. And so what you see, you can make out the word once, O-N-C-E. And you can see that this W-H-I-L-E make the word while. So this once is inside the word while. So this is once in a while. Is it literally the word once is inside the word while. This right here, we have to pay attention to font. Notice this font is different than all the other font here. It's a bit thicker, or it's a bit fatter. And so this is fat chance. And fat chance is if someone says, I think that I can run faster than you, and you say, that's a fat chance. It just means it's not very likely. So then we're on our bottom here already. And so we have this right here where we have the word least, but then the E is marked out. So what does that mean? Why would it do that? But if you take that E out, what you have is last. So you have least, and then you mark out the E, and it's last. So this is last before least. Is the last. Oh, sorry. It's last but not least. Sorry, I got that thing correct. So last but not least. So that's how you could read that one. This one, you have to look at the positioning of the words. We have man here. We have board here. We have a line in between. So this line is obviously trying to show you that this is over top of this one or above this one. And we wouldn't have man above board. That makes no sense. But we would have man over board. And that's when someone falls off a ship. We would say man overboard. This last one is one that I really like. So you look here, you have the word morning. You have these things, these small word things within the word itself. But this one is circled. This one stands out. This one is circled by a red font. And so it is indicating this one stands out from all the other ones. So this is the first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning. The first thing in the morning is a saying. I can't fit it on the page there. First thing in the morning means when you wake up, it's the first thing you do. So a lot of people, the first thing in the morning, they're drinking coffee. Most likely, first thing you're doing in the morning is getting ready for school. So these are 12 Rebus puzzles that we've solved. And you can see there how you have to kind of look at the whole picture. You have to take it all in, and you really have to think about what it is. Sometimes you don't want to overthink it. You want to make it real obvious. And so these are examples, and there are more in the packet that I provided, which I have the link here at the bottom. But what I'm going to encourage you to do is to, when you have some time, just pull out a Rebus puzzle that you can print off from this packet or you can find online and just work on them. It just kind of exercises the brain. It gets you cognitively thinking. It makes you think about something in a different way, which is always a good thing to do, is to be thinking about things differently. And so it's going to cause you to exercise your brain and to, as a result, be ready to think when it's time to think for real.